Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, and thank you for your comments. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And today I'm talking about why Black Americans don't want to be called African. First of all, Black Americans are not African. We are African descended. Many of us are. But Black Americans have been in this country, on this continent, for more than 400 years. So our identity has changed. We are not Africans. We are Americans. Now, some people get upset about that, but it's really true. We have been here from the beginning of this country. We are one of the oldest continuous populations on this continent. Many Black families have been here longer than most white, Asian, or Latino immigrant groups. Over those centuries that Black Americans have been on this country, we have built the agricultural wealth of the United States, shaped American culture, fought in every war, created new music, language, food, and social traditions, and led major political and civil rights movements. This long history means Black Americans are not immigrants. We are a foundational American population. So when someone says you're African, many Black Americans feel my ancestors were African, but I am a product of 400 years of American history. That is not a rejection of African ancestry, it's just historical reality. I listen to different content creators, and sometimes I listen to their live streams, and Africans will call into those shows, and I swear it seems like they know more about American history, Black American history, than they know about the history of their own countries. They will find any kind of argument to discredit anything that a Black American say, trying to prove that Black Americans are Africans. This is insulting and it's infuriating because they do not want to accept that we have not been on that continent for 400, 500 years. Some people, they don't even know anything about Africa, but yet and still they want to prove to you that you are African. And this is not only is it weird, but it's insulting. Another reason why Black Americans reject the African American term and refuse to identify with Africans in some cases is because Black Americans don't understand Africans. For instance, we have been here for 400 years, 500 years, some. It depends on which year you start counting. Black Americans have built a first class country here in America. And we are not the majority in this country. And yet we have the highest standard of living of any Black people, including you too, Ethiopians, who call yourselves white, the dark white people. Well, dark white people are called the N word. Somebody needs to break it to them. Dark white people are called the N word in America. But anyway, back on track. Africans are the majority in their country, and their countries are undeveloped. Their countries are undeveloped and underdeveloped. They're still defecating in the streets. They don't have paved roads. They don't have a sufficient transportation system. They just aren't developed. And Black Americans don't understand that because they are the majority in their country, and they have let a small minority of people come in, colonize them, take over their resources, and really thrown them back into the dark ages. And they come to the Western Hemisphere in the United States of America bragging about knowing where they came from and bragging about their language when their language is not even the national language of their country. And some of them have their noses turned up like they think they're something special. And Black Americans are looking at them like, who do you think you are? And where do you think you are? That you think you're better than the people who built this country that you ran to because your country wasn't providing for you an opportunity to get ahead or to really develop and grow. So you have to come over here and try to fudge off of what we've worked for, even as you turn up your nose. It's just the weirdest thing to a Black American. And then they brag about their degrees and their jobs and things like that when they don't even realize that most of us don't even live in those big cities. Most of us live in the South and the Midwest. They don't even come into contact with the average Black American. They think they're dealing with Black Americans when really they're dealing with immigrants from the Caribbean or from other African nations who have been here a while. They're not even dealing with Black Americans, but they think they're dealing with Black Americans, and they think they're doing so much better than Black Americans when in reality, they're probably coming into contact with other Black immigrant groups. And there's another reason why Black Americans don't see themselves as Africans. They say that when they go to the African countries, the people are just beggars. And that is something that Black Americans have a problem with. And Africans really need to address this. For of all the things that are said about them, this is the one thing they need to do something about, and that's the begging and the scamming, because that is something that Black Americans are not familiar with. Now, the scammers, yeah, we have scammers. I'm not saying we don't have scammers, but it's not glorified in Black American culture. If you are a scammer, people want to stay away from you. But if you are a beggar, people will stay away from you, even if it's a family member. You just do not go around begging when you are a Black American. And this is something that Africans need to address because this is something that makes them look bad. They might think that they are getting over or they are doing something smart or they are doing something cute, but begging is something that Black Americans do not like. Matter of fact, it's something that Black Americans detest. And this is something they need to do something about. And one thing that African and Caribbean immigrants need to stop doing is thinking that their countries compare to Black Americans or that Black American communities compare with their communities in Africa and the Caribbean, because they do not. Our ghetto is not the same as their slum. And there's no point in them getting mad because people tell them that, because they know that it's the truth. Because if it weren't, they would be over there in Africa or in the Caribbean and not here in the United States and crying when the people tell them they have to go home. So they need to come to terms with their countries as third world countries and try to bring them up to first world standard instead of arguing and getting mad at people because they tell them that. These are just some of the few reasons why Black Americans don't want to be called African, because our natures are completely different. Now, this has to do with removal, it has to do with slavery, it has to do with colonialism, it has to do with things that have happened to African people. But there's nothing wrong with saying what the problems are. And we are not running to their countries to make a better life. We can make a better life for ourselves right here. So we can say what we think the problems are. Okay, that's what I've got to say about it, and I stand by what I said. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about the situation and have a good evening.